Welcome, everyone's here. That's a new slide. We're going to do resource launch protection meeting first of the board meeting. So, first, protection authority. I have to say that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the YouTube channel at all day. That's you're how late, but it will forward. You have the agenda in front of you. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I have a motion to approve the agenda. Jim Wayne, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. You have the opportunity to declare your interest. You do. Minutes. They were circulated. Happened a long time ago, but when someone feel comfortable in moving the minutes, here's that. Moved by Mike, second by Peter. Are there any errors, omissions, or questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Business arising. I don't see any. We move on. Correspondence. We have 4 items with someone who received, and then we can deal with them. Randy words that we received, second by Tom. Are there any questions on any of them? First Doug, and then Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, and I told the gentleman yesterday, Mr. Benz, who wrote a letter, a report 2003 called the Lake Erie Source Protection. Champlain Source Protection, I guess, something on that line. But anyways, he said that, what's the authority that all this information goes through from here? Does it go over to Niagara or someplace? Do we report this information someplace other than the province? Did somebody answer that question?
We'll get to that, but just with the correspondence, is it related to the correspondence?
Yeah, I'm referring to the whole process, right?
Okay, we'll get that to when we do the report, but we'll deal with the correspondence right now.
That's fine.
Mike.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my question was with respect to the water testing. Is it in order to speak to that at this time?
Sure.
Okay, there's a recommendation passed by some conservation authority or some water commission that they do not want the province to take away the testing of water from wells. And I just wonder, we do have a lot of bunk houses in Norfolk, Oxford, and Elgin counties in particular. And I just wonder how that, taking away that service will affect our residences that rely on testing of water.
Well, we'll just let Jay respond to that. I don't believe they're taking it away. I stated that it would now be paid for. It was a free service before, when they're on state, they're suggesting that. Yeah. Not free. Judy, do you want to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, I'm not sure about bunkhouse, the application there. I'm not sure if people pay for that. Currently, this is for the rural residents. So, would you know how it is bunkhouse? So, the minister did come back to say that, she did speak. It's another piece of correspondence there that they're not taking it away, but Robert's correct. The question is, the language is vague around if it's going to continue to be free or not. And then the other issue is they are looking to close some of the provincial testing labs to consolidate some of the operations. So I don't know about the bunkhouses.
So they want to go to a fee for service. I know right now it's through the health unit that bunkhouses are. Water sampling is taken through the Norfolk Health Unit. So how is this program hooked into the health unit program?
That would be the program. My understanding. It's administered differently, I think, in different locations, but.
Yeah.
The health of it.
If I can just assist, Public Health Ontario released a paper suggesting that some of the water testing services closed. State one, obviously, and they're suggesting the service that was free, water testing, I could take my water in and get it tested, it would cost me anything. But we go ahead and one process, I could take that in, tested, do the health unit, it would cost anything. I can still do that. They're suggesting that perhaps, Public Health Ontario is recommending that there be a cost associated with it. It isn't in place now, but they're suggesting that it is, and the resolution that's going around is to be administered and by all these people requesting that we made a free service.
Sure. Okay, I guess it's just a download from the product, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, we can endorse, there's a resolution circulating around that we can endorse and send on, and
I have a copy here, if you, I can read it out if.
let's deal with the correspondence, then we'll deal with that. So if we, any other questions on the correspondence, then we'll come back to that. When it's general.
No, really, a question is more of a comment that I would be happy to support the recommendations or the correspondence here that asks for us to continue as status quo. I mean, we have a lot of rural properties involved in them, and we have, you know, people that live on the property line and they're getting their wells tested on a regular basis and can't afford to test their roofs. And they would probably buy groceries over testing their wells, and we're gonna end up in a horrible situation.
And not everyone, just as not everyone gets the water tested, they should, if it's a free service, they should do it. And, at least in Bank County, the rule of thumb is that almost a third of the water tests are unsatisfactory. So people now going to pay for it, there's going to be more and more ones that are not tested, and perhaps from more perspectives. So, and we have a resolution that has been circulated. It came from one of the other conservation authorities. All we can let's deal with public policy. No questions, motion to receive has been moved and seconded. So,
Yes. Yep.
so call for concern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question on the first item of correspondence, the letter from the Ministry of the Environment. Just wanted to ask if staff is satisfied with the extension that's been given for the reports that are required. Is that enough time?
Thank you through the chairs. So this was a request that was sent in from the Grand River staff that works on the source water. There were some staffing issues there, and they asked for an extension, but Sherry feels that it's enough time to get everything completed now. They have staff in place.
Final questions? All those in favor of receiving the correspondence? Opposed, the motion is carried. Now, dealing with the item with the larger outlaws, June, the order that resolution and the following day that we endorse it and send it to.
Sure, Mr. Chair. So we didn't get a chance to put this into a report, but I thought with bringing the cases came up in conversation. And this came, this one here was circulated by Nottawasaga Conservation Authority, and it was passed and endorsed at their source meeting. So it says, whereas private water systems, e.g. wells, are not protected through legislative requirements under the Safe Drinking Water Act 2002 and the Clean Water Act 2006, but are more likely to contribute to cases of a gastrointestinal illness than municipal systems. And whereas the 2023 Ontario Auditor General's Value for Money Audit of Public Health Ontario recommended that PHO, in conjunction with the Ontario Ministry of Health, begin the gradual discontinuance of free private drinking water testing. And whereas in the jurisdiction of LPRCA, many households do not receive water from municipal systems, and many relying on private drinking water systems, including wells. And whereas the Walkerton Inquiry Report, Part 2, concluded the privatization of laboratory testing of drinking water samples contributed directly to the E. coli outbreak in Walkerton, Ontario in May 2000. And whereas all Ontarians deserve safe, clean water and free well water testing is a way to help ensure that residents on private wells continue to have barrier-free access to well water testing. Therefore, be it resolved that the board recommends the board of directors call on the province to not phase out free water, well water testing as part of the proposed streamlining efforts of public health laboratory operations in the province. And further, that this resolution be circulated to the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, Honorable Lisa Thompson, Minister of Ag, Food and Rural Affairs, Honorable Andrea Cajun, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, local MPPs, and Conservation Ontario and Ontario's conservation authorities.
Or yes, if anyone would like to move that, keep in mind that we are in the source, Baltimore Region Source Protection Authority. It's better to do that at a board. I think it would be, so if we can just hold that, add that to our regular board meeting, I think it would be,
Well, Mr. Chair, here there was the piece about this board, the board recommend the board of directors. So I think the motion could be passed
so.
in this session, and then it would come under your signature as the chair of the board.
Okay, so we're gonna do it in both places.
Do you think it needs to be done in the general membership one too?
Mr. Chairman, for clarity, was that done at a source protection meeting or was that done
Yes, it was.
at Conservation Authority?
It was done at a source protection meeting. So.
Right, Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I would support your concept, but, we could move it here and then, you photocopy, we can put on correspondence at 6:30 on the regular board meeting and deal with it and do it again as the board of LPRCA. Does that make sense?
Sure.
They're two separate entities.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
That's the issue.
Yeah,
So let's do it here and then we will receive it at board meeting. Let's put it in place in a matter of if we pass it, but let's see if there's a mover here. Michael moves it. Seconded by Shelley Ann. All those in favor? Henry's motion's carried. And we will have done this authority adjust wishing and that will appear at the board meeting momentarily. We'll have a size again. Okay, now, finally, actually, the purpose of the meeting is to receive a,
We just did motion for correspondence. We accept all correspondence as information.
and I would do this.
It was moved and seconded.
Okay, so all in favor of receiving correspondence?
Oh, we did, I'm sorry.
We did that.
Yep.
it's on this one, but you didn't call it question.
Seems to be we're doing everything twice. Just to make sure we do it right, we'll do it twice.
Question, Mr. Chair, does that mean we get $200 from that?
400 students. Okay, now David is here to present the report that is supposedly from the student. David, you want to give a 5 or 10 minute executive summary and then we can see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm here today to present the annual progress report for 2023. For our new members, I'll give a quick summary of the role of the Source Protection Authority. So the Lake Erie Source Protection Region is one of 19 regions within Ontario created to carry out drinking water source protection planning under the Clean Water Act. The Lake Erie region contains four source protection areas, which are Cambridge Creek, Grand River, Kell Creek, and the Long Point region. All four of these authorities are required yearly to submit an annual progress report and supplemental form to the Ministry of Environment and Conservation. This year's report is progress of the source protection plan from January 1st to December 31st, 2023, and includes information from the supplemental form. This year's report indicates that a total of 715 potential existing significant drinking water threats have been identified in the Long Point source protection area. Of these threats, 144 have been verified in the field to no longer exist, and 319 have been reported as managed and no longer pose a significant risk to municipal drinking water sources. The report highlights the progress on implementing the legally binding plan policies that address significant drinking water threats, all of which 100% were implemented, in progress, or implemented because policy outcomes were evaluated and no further actions were. All municipalities in the Long Point region protection area have processes in place to ensure planning decisions conform to the plan and are managing or prohibiting new threats as appropriate. The report also mentions that addressing risks on the ground and subject to infections are progressing well and are on target. It states that risk management plans are progressing well, but are just short of target. The report also notes that a total of 12 drinking water protection signs have been installed on municipal roads and trails, and 5 have been installed on provincial highways since the plan came into effect in 2016. There are also no noted delays in implementation of policies in the report. Overall, the Lake Erie Regional Source Protection Committee has passed a resolution that the plan is progressing well and on target towards achieving its objectives. The Long Point Region Source Protection Authority has the responsibility to submit this 2023 Long Point Region Annual Progress Report and supplemental form to the Ministry of Environment and Conservation.
Doug, did you do that? Yeah, you want to leave with what you were.
Yes, I guess is there another conservation authority that we send this to? Who is that?
You can talk to it, so.
Through chair. So if that would be the Lake Erie Source Protection Region, it's composed of 4 separate conservation authorities. So it is managed out of the Grand River Conservation Authority.
So when you say they manage it, what do they do?
So they are the ones that put together this annual report. They manage the program for our area, shell conservation and catfish and the trip.
And there's a larger, community that's together from all the different representatives from there's some industry reps, there's municipal reps, but that structure was determined in, I think also around the table, there's the ministry, there's a rep, but that's quite a large committee. I think there's like 25 members that sit around the table there.
And do they make recommendations? Like,
So they're like sort of the overseeing, and then we send our recommendations to them and they send them on.
so they send them on to the province. Okay, so can they change things or do it, or
Not,
once they don't,
no, they wouldn't be able to make the change without, if there's something that we said, they can't make the change until it comes.
I think I read it, this is as of May 1st, is that correct? This report runs to May 1st, like
To April 30th.
April 30th, okay, but, so now we do it again next year. So what I'm asking that, we're going through, these urban boundary expansions right now, which to me are important and what may change considerably around the areas of, Simcoe, Waterford, Delhi, draw mainly on Drumwood. So this whole thing could change within a year, am I correct, if development takes place in those areas? Is that how, like, they re-monitor again, am I correct?
So it's based off of Yeah, so the impact, so there's the intake protection zones, so there's regulation under those zones. That's. Correct. So if the new well was installed, yes, fine, that would be nominals. Plan.
What about development in wellhead protection area?
Yeah, so that's all regulated, yes.
Okay, so they will, when they do next year's report, they would look at that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Richard, on the, standards for septic, Peter.
Madam Chair, my question kind of runs similar to Doug's question. So what input does our staff have into this report then?
So through the chair, we don't produce this report. It is just like the Lake Erie region produces a report. That can be used of no tracking. This report.
I'm just wondering what the process is as well, if I could carry on, Madam Chair. What the process is for identifying new threats, so is that all regulated at the municipal level then, rather than at conservation authority level?
Yes.
Okay, because I went through the supplemental form and just looking at some of the answers to some of the questions there, and I wondered, how does that process go about happening? So, but then that would be covered by building inspectors, site plans and that sort of thing then.
Through the chair, the exact specifics of that, I can get to share.
Through the chair, I'm just thinking that like the municipalities have their risk management, officers or officials, and that links in. I know that there's a lot of correspondence between different river staff, like the technical staff and the municipal staff, on when there's, work being done for wells and with the development. But there's this other plan that we're updating. I don't know if it's updated, but I think it's completed every so many years, so I'm not sure how fluid it is, like how they catch that. We have to check with Sherry to see exact process.
Well, let me carry on. My question is more about how are we dealing with our landowners and property owners within the watershed? If I can give a hypothetical just very quickly, a mile north of my farm is Durham wetlands. And so if I were to purchase a piece of land there, not understanding what restrictions might be on there, and I proceed to apply huge amounts of manure on there, even though it is the recharge area for the Durham Center water system. How does an inspection get triggered? How would that come to be known? Would that be covered? Like, would I be, as a new landowner, be notified about restrictions on that property when I buy it? What I'm interested in is make sure that we're dealing fairly with our landowners in all municipalities, so that they're aware of what restrictions are on their properties when they are in wellhead protection areas, and that working on educating rather than enforcing more often.
Have to follow up to get an understanding. We can communicate back through an email to the members. Or question.
I along with that, I don't know if these wellhead protection areas, if it affects a property, whether it's registered on title or not. And I know somebody must be keeping a close eye on it, because on agenda pack, page 20, last sentence says, an additional 25 inspections were carried out in the municipality of Bayham and the county of Oxford for activities that were prohibited under section 57 of the Clean Water Act. So somebody must be keeping a close eye on the whole order.
MECP.
MCP.
Any other comments or questions? Chris?
One, hold on, the one profits. In 2000, when they were drowning all these people, and my understanding is that first thing they do the map of where the wells draw, but they're moving one, two, and and they identify threats in those areas. That's what we're working on the farming fuel tank sitting there. Either we have to move it out of there or in some information under it and then the wall tank and all those things. We're the threats that we're working to remove. There were some with septic systems close by that treated the fence them. And we'll use Judd Industrial Park in Simcoe, only because that is in the wellhead protection zone. Only certain type of industry would be allowed to move in there, and that we kept most of it. Allow a smelter in the wellhead protection zone, in your zoning bylaw, you know. So I think, they're in the process of catching the last of those things that have been identified for venues. Sure, environment. They keep them around, maybe some local reviews or something. Watch to put in something that shouldn't be there, that they get reported, they're the ones that they enforce that. And, the mapping doesn't exist in everybody's own bylaws and official plans, so you buyer beware, thing, you go check the map and see. I think there are not restrictions, but limitations on spraying manure. All that due diligence that lawyers charge you for and never do. So yeah, be careful when you buy the part next to the wetland. Just to expand a little bit on that, the plant harvest we smell restart when the regulations and zoning are changed. It's I'm not so sure it's you suggested is it a problem to change its hands and reduce farming use, but it's not a zoning. No, it's not now that's regulating, so that's what Peter's asking. Any other questions? So,
Well, I think you hit it on the head there. I apologize because I'm learning this as I go, but provincial policy statement, it's the planning department that identifies these areas as a potential risk. That's my understanding.
yeah, they're supposed to. There's a proposed resolution, which is a standard form resolution. And then, some out, so, you want to do that? You're doing better than I can.
Motion, big moment. Let's go. That the Long Point Region Source Protection Authority is satisfied with the 2023 Long Point Region Annual Progress Report and supplemental form meets the requirements of Section 46 of the Clean Water Act 2006 and any directions, instructions established or directors' instructions established under ORA 28707, Section 52. And that Lake Erie Region staff be directed to submit the 2023 Long Point Region Annual Progress Report in supplemental form to the Director of Conservation and Source Protection, Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, along with any Source Protection Committee comments, in accordance with the Section 46 of the Clean Water Act 2006 and any director's instructions established under ORA 28707 and Section 52.
So I don't feel comfortable moving that. Chris, that Pierce.
I'm comfortable moving and says it meets the requirements. It doesn't say it's right or wrong.
And yet we are the Long Point Region Source Protection Authority. This goes to the Lake Erie Protection Authority, which is the core that wants to be ministry. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We've done our due diligence. This will be any other business coming before the Long Point Region Source Protection Authority. None, I can declare the meeting adjourned. Welcome everyone, to the chairs. Well, right, we're here. We have a full, as well, so, we're good to go. We do have the addition to the agenda. It's the resolution we talked about previously. I think it's gonna be passed around, but we'll put that as other new business 9G. We endorse it at that time. So with that addition, are there any other additions to the? Seeing none, would someone move that the agenda be approved? Yeah, and Rainey, all those in favor? Motion carried.
So is there a motion to add?
No, I just added it. Yes, approved as an information. And I was negligent in saying that this meeting is being recorded. Go to the YouTube station at a later date. The room's to watch it, it's make sure it'll be everything right. I'll report on that at your next meeting, so designate someone to watch it to make sure it goes out. There is a provision for the declaration of continuing interest. If you have an interest, we'll just declare at the appropriate time, which is when you decide that you have an interest. The minutes of the previous meeting were circulated. Someone will come over moving the minutes. We got it. That was the question on the one. You will hear that. Yes, here. Now, are there any questions, errors, or omissions, Doug?
Yeah, just on page 3, myself and Councillor Clump, myself and, Councillor Clump was asked a question about the grading and drainage plan. Page 24, what that one is the, Norview application. My question is, and I realize it's well underway, but who is responsible for that? Did our staff review that, or did the county staff, or was there an on-point staff review the grading plan? Who was responsible for it?
I can answer that. Through the chair, LPRCA staff look at applications as it relates to municipal hazard. So we would look at the drainage plan to ensure that they're not putting water on other people's properties. When it comes to, I think last time the meeting, the concern was the height of the retaining wall. If that retaining wall isn't adjacent to a natural hazard, we wouldn't express any concerns with it. So that would be up to Norfolk County.
Because you don't really check grades.
We check grade as it relates to natural hazards. So if you're on a slope and you're,
So I'm just trying to blame somebody here. Is it our staff? Then I assume it's our staff that didn't check the grades, because there is obviously a mistake there. You look at it. It's unreal. Somebody missed, somebody not. We've been out looking for somebody's there. It's too late. Geez, I just wonder how it happened.
What I want to say is dealing with the minutes that's what's before us.
Remove the minutes.
The issue in the minutes is that perhaps you could do that, bring in the community.
Thank you.
Are there any errors or omissions? Do you have a second of the minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? And then perhaps Doug, you can discuss that issue with Leanne and perhaps the building department and Norfolk County, and then hopefully you can get some answers on that. That's no one describing for roots.
Chair,
And then question.
the Victoria Dam, the 30-day review period, is it up, and have you had any comments back from anyone else?
So, The, posting was circulated and it's up on our website. We have to have it posted in the newspaper and the 30-day period starts, so that will be effective next Thursday. We do have to do a mailing to approximately 35 people with the correspondence to say it's been completed and there's a 30-day consultation period. So we'll be working on that tomorrow. And is there anything else? That's it. So the clock will start ticking next Thursday once the newspaper, that's considered public. It's on, it'll be on our website. It's on our website right now. But not until next Thursday.
Thank you for that.
Let's move to the next item of business, and that's the, section 28. Regulations approved permits, and we're just gonna speak to that.
Through the chair, LPRCA staff have approved 20 applications for development since the April Board of Directors meeting. As always, we've provided a summary of the application and provided a map at the end showing where the watershed that the activities are taking place. If you have any questions.
You don't have any questions on any of the applications, Peter?
Another question, Mr. Chair, just a comment. The imperial measurements are awesome. Thank you.
You can tell the staff listens to that board. Let's see if that happens next meeting. Any other questions or comments on any of the applications? There's a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors receives the section 28 regulations approved permits report dated May 1st, 2024. It's information. Someone moving that. Brady moves it, seconded by Peter. Any final questions? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Sorry, Chair. Just for clarification, the application, number LPRCA 66-524 says Lake 1375 Lakeshore Road, Norfolk County, Rainy. Is that Haldeman County?
Yeah.
So just a correction. Thank you.
Thanks for that. So there was motions carried all in favor. And we'll move to the next item of business, and that is new business, and we have Judy to give her a general manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll skip over the first part because I did not attend the Conservation Ontario AGM and council meeting. So I'll defer that to if there's any comments from the chair and Aaron. We've been busy getting ready for parks. I also included in there the maintenance that we've been doing on our dams for the spring, and our city staff have been working on the changes that need to be reflected from the Interior Regulation Board 124. I also wanted to update the board that we did have some staffing changes. We had Ron Beckham start on April 22nd as a supervisor for the county. And unfortunately, Brandon Vick has he resigned. He found a job with with Hamilton Conservation Authority. So he's still in the conservation network. And he was taken a position there looking after conservation areas. So we've had a lot of interest in our seasonal camping. So we've been busy processing that, and today actually is the opening for our campgrounds. So we're hoping to have around 450 seasonal campers. When I wrote this report, we had processed 397 seasonal, so we're well on our way. We've applied for more funding to get some more money for invasive spraying, and we also want to put in some permanent test plots for oak wilt and the disease for the hemlock. So if we're able to secure that, that will give us some funding to to establish that. And we did do a joint application, with Long Point Trust. So, and also probably, I don't know if some people follow social media, we did have a scout planting on Saturday on Dorot Bacchus, and Jessica attended, and there were some really good pictures of the scout group from Port Dover. So there was even though it was a little rainy, it was well attended with their families and themselves. So.
Your report?
Thank you, Mr. Jennifer.
Just before I ask if there's any questions to Judy, perhaps, Dave, if you want to just, fill in the, conservation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Conservation Ontario, Aaron and I attended it. There are 4 of them annually, and the chair has asked me as vice chair to attend these because of the farming season. I have more free time than he does, and I'm retired, he isn't, so it's asked me to get his stead. We found that the 36 conservation authorities, the new regulations state that a person can only hold the chair for a year and vice chair for a year. So therefore, there were a lot of new faces there. There were a lot of staff members that were there. It was quite comfortable. We did know some people. They elected a board of directors. Basically, the reports were what is done at that level. 36 conservation. A very quick meeting, a very positive meeting. Everyone seemed to be quite satisfied with it. And on an interesting note, the general manager just mentioned earlier when we were talking about source water protection, the resolution that came out of Mississauga, and the general manager there is Tillsworth native, Doug Hebner. And he came up to me, I haven't seen him in many, many years, and he recognized my face. So we had a nice little chat. It was nice to do that. So it's a very a community effort that Conservation Ontario has. People seem to get along with each other. They're not, we're saying we're larger than you are, so we're better than you are. Everybody seems to share synergies, and it felt quite comforting. I don't know if everyone wants to have any joke sometime. That was a very positive meeting.
I think Dave covered it off. There's a typical AGM with initial statements, election of the board, options, and covered it all.
Are there any questions to either Aaron or Judy? No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Judy. Judy, can I ask, has Brandon already made the transition to the health and CA?
Yes, he has through the chair. He worked until April 16th, because that was the day that our staff started for work. So he agreed to stay and do the handoff. We have Evan Forbes, who has been promoted, and he is superintendent of conservation areas. So he started on Monday, so it's been the 22nd.
Okay, very good, because that was my next question, if that position can help.
So yes, we had Evan, who was the supervisor at Halton, and he was on a contract here for the winter months because he's been doing a lot of park pollution and working with Shepherd. And so it was a natural thing to, we didn't have much time to react. So we have promoted him, so I'm working closely with him to make sure that he's successful in the parks can function this summer.
Very good, thank you.
Questions? Here.
The general manager's report indicates that there were 55 permit applications, and there were 79 the previous year in the same time period. Just significant difference. And what's this attributed to, Judy? Is it the fact that there's 30 meters to wetland versus 120, or is it buildings just dropped off, or?
No, it's not related to the setback, the wetlands, because that's just for perspective. We don't like April 1st, so maybe Leanne has some insight, but I think it's just ebbs and flows. It's hard to predict. what the activity will be. So we're, I don't really anymore.
You're the chair, yeah, the reduction in wetland. The distance from wetland that we regulated came into the. So there's been a handful of applications in the last month. We've basically sent back and regulated them even more. I know Karen's gonna touch on some of the numbers that it is. But in general, kind of the activity, when it relates to current planning activity.
So it'll affect our revenue then, we take a hit. Thank you.
Any other questions? The motion that the board of directors receives the general manager's report, regional production as information, seconded moved by Michael, seconded by Rainey. Any final questions? All those in favor? Opposed, and motion's carried. There is received. Now we go on to Aaron's report. Finances.
Thank you. So the Q1 financial report provides consolidated and departmental update for the board. We budget versus actual results for the period up to and including March 31st, 2020. The Q1 operating revenues totaled 1.653 million, or represented 27.2% of the budget. Expenditures were under 881,000, or 15.1% of budget. This resulted in a surplus of 772,000 for the first 2 months of fiscal 2024. The surplus of 772,000 is $48,597 greater than the surplus of 2023, or up 6.7% year over year for the same period. Planning user fees of $48,968 are down 40% through the first 3 months in comparison with the 2023 figure of $82,493. Just for an update for the board, I did run the April financials today, and the planning user fees are now up to $72,033 in comparison with April of 2023 planning user fees of $91,000. To April 30th, they're down approximately 21.6% in comparison with that period. Noting the questions from the last report for the planning, I think it's a combination of 2021, 22, and 23 with the pandemic. We saw heightened permits, and a lot of people did work that they hadn't planned, and we started to see it slow down. And then I think in combination with interest rates, the two together have kind of impacted. But as I mentioned, we've had heightened revenues over the last 3 years. It looks like compared to budget, will be slightly better if they remain where they are today for the rest of the fiscal. So I did mention that we have exceeded our budget the last 3 years of what we've planned. On to forestry, we've issued 2 of the 3 planned tenders that resulted in $314,902 in revenue, exceeding the budget target of $310,000 for the year. Camping revenues at March 31st totaled $415,065. At this point, that was 123 seasonal campers that had been registered and paid. In 2023, we had 451 seasonal campers over the whole year, and we anticipate to have similar numbers for 2024. Overall, the authority is in a favorable position with a surplus of 772,000 at March 31st, and we're projected to remain on target for this year. If there's any questions from the board?
Questions, Chris? They are in you report increase. It says awarded 2 of 3 tenders. So the amounts below $314,000. Is that for the expected amount of those 2 tenders, or is there one more coming over and above the 300?
So we have with the 2 tenders, we've exceeded the target. So we were not planning on sending from the 3rd one at this time because we are able to hold them. You never know. We always have Debbie always this one's ready depending on what.
Only get bigger, right?
But yeah, so it's not a matter of that we have to issue the third one. We can't hold on.
Peter,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Aaron, as I was going through this report, I thought in front of me that it might not be as informative as I thought it might be. We've had to do some rejigging in terms of how things are written and how, where we allocate certain funds to due to the regulations around having to get municipal agreements put in place and our avoidance of that. Has that substantially changed some of these revenue and expenditures, or is it largely the same as last year? Are we going to have a picture, say 1 year from now with the same report when we compare it to this one?
Through the chair, Peter, reporting has remained essentially the same. The board set up 2 reserves last year, one for motor pool and one for user fees. As you go through the report, you'll look at this, campgrounds are user fees, and so are campgrounds and forest. Their surplus supports Bacchus and some of Healthy Watershed. I can, in future reports, break that down on how the allocation is going, and specifically if they have surplus or deficits in those category 1, 2, and 3 programs. But essentially, it's a movement of funds between departments where it all went to corporate services before. It's spread out between 3 different departments now. So financial reporting wise, there's no changes.
So basically the executive summary is very similar to what we would have seen last year then.
Yes, at the end of the year, there will be definitive reporting on this, because you will see, instead of everything going to an unrestricted reserve at the organization as a whole, we've added 2 other reserves. So it'll be an allocation that we're going to see surplus or deficits between those other programs.
Thank you.
any questions? There's a motion that the board of directors receives the Q1 financial report. Someone feel comfortable with that? Here. Any final questions? All in favor? Forward? Which is carried. It's going to buy her. Get it from the CFO.
Thank you. So in front of the board is a report. The policy did go to Bacchus Museum Committee, but as a policy, the board of directors needs to consider it and approve. So this is for the Paris Heritage Site Collection Management Policy. Sarah did a great job at outlining sort of the changes through the different sections of the report. I did remove the track changes just off the attached draft policy. Just for easy, to make it easier to read. But if there's any questions, I can try to answer them. But this is more, a lot of housekeeping and cleaning up, and also just changing things so that can help facilitate the decession of some of the artifacts and cleaning up some of the things and aligning them with education versus actually finding as part of education. So this is still.
The August Museum, did got the changes to their Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I read through the report. I did notice that on page 37 of the agenda, the collection development policy, point number 5, it still references the assistant curator there. And to be consistent, I think that position was changed to heritage programmer.
Yes.
So that needs to be adjusted in order to be consistent throughout the policy then, yes.
Okay, no. Questions? Someone move that the directors approve to, same question. Tom. Second, Brian. Question. Question favor. Opposed, the motion is carried. And we have this one, gun or a waste officer and
Chair, Megan Doan, who successfully completed level 1 provincial offensive training course. She did that, early in April. They did a hybrid approach here. So she did, some days online and then also ventured up north of Morelia to complete the rest of the course in person. So that course was organized by Conservation Ontario, and it's minimum training standards to be designated a provincial offensive officer in Ontario. So she would be, we were asking the board to designate her under section 28 and 29 of the Conservation Authorities Act. And if the board agrees, she'll be the third officer designated under both section 28 and 29.
Someone move the, go ahead, some question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I should probably know this, but can you refresh our memories, collectively? Section 8 is what, section 29. What does that authorize an enforcement officer to do then specifically?
And through the chair, there's a number of powers that the Conservation Authorities Act and the Provincial Offenses Act provide the officers. I don't have a full list in my brain of what they are. Section 28 is basically our development regulations, so it allows enforcement of the Section 28 regulation. Allowed to go to a JP and ask for a Part 3 to file charges against someone if we believe that they contravene that section. We have no use of force. We have none of the under either of the act. Under section 29 is our lands. So that's the ability to write Part 1 tickets for any contravention of the act. So including littering, driving too fast in our parks, those types of things, trespassing the property.
So it would seem to me that there is some level of liability on our part in terms of safety of our staff members when they take on these roles. Are they given training as to how to de-escalate situations, particularly I'm thinking in the parks and recreation side of things? Obviously no use of force, but are we ever putting some of our staff members in harm's way that were they given adequate training for that?
So through the chair, I'm not overly familiar with a lot of the training because section 29 of the parks. I know Judy can speak to that, but through this course that Conservation Ontario puts out, a couple of the modules talk about de-escalation, basically keeping yourself safe. So for planning, we've kind of been under the understanding that if you're going out to a site, bring someone else along. We also use our municipal partners. So if there is a violation taking place and it's also contravening the municipality's one of the bylaws, we'll go out with one of the bylaw officers, or if there's an issue and M&R is involved, we'll go out with an M&R officer because safety in numbers and worksheets and stuff. So that's providing that due to for planning. And then there's ongoing training that we provide our staff with conflict management and having those difficult conversations as well.
So through the chair, actually, with the training, we have some park supervisors trained with this being a regulation officer. However, we thought it'd be prudent to give all the staff in the parks that were more that are in charge, like the people that are dealing with either working at night or the assistants and the supervisors. So we just ran a course last week, and we hired the same person that actually delivers the course for Conservation Ontario. She came down and ran a one-day course on specific skills for de-escalation of situations, describe the act, even though they can't write tickets. It's just good to know if you're in a situation, how to deal with it. So she designed a very specific course for our frontline staff. So we hired, I think, 18 staff members that are employees in the parks come and attend that training. And we had really positive feedback that they really, really liked it. And it was good training, so. And we couldn't afford, like, it's very expensive to send one for the training, so we felt this way we could spend the dollars and get a lot of training done. And then we still have them people that are designated, but give some training to the people to deal with the customers and working at night.
Well, so we're looking after our people now. What about looking after ourselves? So do we have this in a policy somewhere or in a set of standard operating guidelines for staff such that we can prove due diligence as a board that we're looking after our people?
Not specifically, this is just, we'd have the training records, and Angela, Kennan is the person delivering the, of course, I don't think we issued any certificates, but and we would just have the records of, the training.
Yeah, thanks for the answer, Judy. It seems to me that we might want to be a little bit more in place, either a set of standard operating guidelines or some such sort of document to limit the liability of the board and senior staff.
Okay, that'll be noted down. It's an excellent question.
So any training though that's required, like working at heights, confined spaces, chainsaw courses, where we do have all those course like training, and we do stay compliant with what the requirements are. The small water system, drinking systems that we have, the staff are trained. We do have all those training records, and we do report that and keep track of when things are due. There's a whole list of things that we maintain the database for, so we do have those records.
Any other questions? There's a proposed resolutions, the words are getting a little bit longer, the resolutions are getting a little bit longer, so I'm asking to read the resolution, see something.
That the LPRCA Board of Directors appoints Megan Doan, Resource Planner, as an LPRCA Regulations Officer and Provincial Offenses Officer for the purpose of compliance and enforcement of any regulation made under Section 28 and Section 29 as per subsection 30.1 of the Conservation Authorities Act and the Trespass to Property Act.
That, followed by Sir, seconded by Shelley. Any questions? On the questions, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. And that brings us to the next item, and we are on top of the swamp.
Through the chair, just want to bring this to like the 10th minute say posting on the environmental regulation registry of Ontario on April 5th. The province posted a proposal for DERO related to the minister's powers under the Conservation Authorities Act permits and the circumstances for which a minister can use these powers. So this regulation has been brought up because of the recent changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. Under this power, the minister has the power to direct the CA not to issue a permit for a specific individual, for a specific activity, direct the CA not to issue a permit for a certain type of activity, or certain type or class of activity. The minister has the ability to make an order before or after the CA application. An application has finished, even if the CA is still, the decision is still pending. Issue a permit in place of the Conservation Authority for any activity if the same activity, the criteria or tests concerning the natural hazard and public safety concern by the Conservation Authority are satisfied, or they have the ability to review the permit or issue a permit subject to conditions if the minister deems them appropriate. A whole list of the circumstances for which the minister can issue a permit is on page 46 of the agenda package. There's a lot of unknowns when reviewing this. when reviewing this, staff have identified a number of concerns, and I think a lot of it has to do with uncertainty of when this would be used. Would this truly speed up the time for reviewing of applications? So we have drafted a letter following this report with outlining our recommendations and our concerns for the possible consideration. And we're looking for the board to endorse sending that letter. And I can go through some of the concerns that we have identified. One of them is just being uncertainty, confusion, and time delays may result in impacting the minister's powers. While reading through the ERO posting, there's very little information on how the minister will review these applications. Will they be using technical information from the Conservation Authority? Will they be using their own information, their own staff? Will they be dependent on consultants? There's just a lot of unknowns. So the overall message that we're trying to portray to the province that conservation authorities provide a cost-effective service for the review. And here at LPRCA, in 2023, we issued all of our clients with 30 days for receiving a completion. So just highlighting that we are processing applications, we're using all this information and just giving them maybe some food for thought when they proceed with this regulation. Another concern that we identified was just the potential increase to life of property. Again, conservation authorities have the most up-to-date hazard mapping, technical studies for their watershed. With this information that used, would the minister be looking at other information? And also another point about highlighting if the minister is to provide a permit in relation to a development activity, that any enforcement relating to that permit should be on the obligation of the ministry as well, and not be put on conservation authority staff to enforce. The third kind of group of concerns that we highlighted is the province is proposing a wide range of circumstances for which the powers to be enacted. And like I said, on page 46, they talk about classes of permit or applications that support specific provincial interests, which include, it's very broad, so it's housing, community services, transportation infrastructure, mixed-use development. So our concern is because there's such a broad range of development applications that a minister can enact with their powers, is our caution would be that the minister only enact their power to treat circumstances. And yeah, the letter that follows, we're just asking for the board endorsement to send that over to the ERO posting.
You've seen the letter, it's worth a song. Nice.
I'm just going to move the recommendation of this report, Mr. Chair.
Before you do that, Rick had his hand up, perhaps question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it sounds like politics are entering the decision-making process here. Since April 1st of this year, so it's only a month old now, do you know of any of the 36 conservation authorities in the province that are under the influence of this right at this time? Any threats out there to bring this type of thing forward?
Through the chair, I haven't heard of any, and a note I find interesting is that the section of the Conservation Authorities Act that empowers the minister, gives the minister those powers, only came into effect April 1st. And on April 5th, they have posted this ERO. So they've moved very quickly on developing feedback to enact this regulation. So it's not currently enforced because they don't have a regulation to support it. But the fact that they've sent it out, sorry, not 4 days, it's been 10 days. Or no, that's a different one, sorry. Yeah, it was April. I have another one coming up, sorry, I'm getting, yeah, it was on April 5th. So within 4 days of that power being there in the Conservation Authorities Act, they have posted on the ERO the regulation.
And what's Conservation Ontario's position on this? Has it been discussed at Conservation Ontario?
So through the chair, yes, I sat in on a meeting with Conservation Ontario and the other GMs. And there was 2 representatives from, the Ministry of Natural Resources. So the comments, Conservation Ontario also putting forward the comments, and would be very similar from what I gathered from discussion after ministry staff left. So I haven't seen those, but we will be providing our comments to Conservation Ontario. Ours would align closely with what they're saying. The one thing that, the conservation authorities, there's some very pointed questions to the ministry. And one was, they say they don't have any of the technical staff, so they would actually, they're gonna be looking to put out, requests for, I think for what they term, but basically putting a request out to have people on retainers that could do these reviews when they actually have conservation authorities who could provide that service. They're looking to hire consultants. So that was left a pretty sour taste in there with the amount that they're doing on it. It's, they're adding costs and they're just adding, there'll be time delays added. It's not going to speed anything up by going out to third parties, which makes it a little frustrating for conservation staff. And yeah, there's just so much uncertainty on how and what, and they didn't really have any answers. They're they're gathering information. I think they're really doing this quickly, as Leanne said, obviously it's to be in place for something we don't really, but.
Well, hopefully there won't be any abuse in the process.
Thank the chairman through you to that. When I read through this, what I know perhaps would need clarity on is these new powers, do they replace the conservation authorities' current powers, or is it one more layer of potential appeal that the new minister power would be?
Chair, that's a good question. The way I read the legislation is that the applicant can request the minister to review it. So even if they've submitted the development proposal to the Conservation Authority, in the meantime, they can ask the minister to step. So they can take over the process when we've already been involved with it. And then, so I don't think this is going to be used as an appeal, even though you can appeal to the minister. The minister powers, it sounds like they can come in at any point before the permit is issued.
Something Chuck Brown called there, but have that in play somewhere. But and go when he go to military, don't ignore the rules. Because on the law, they like it from people you both have to go forward. I mean, clarity would be, we're down. The board of directors feel they come down with record time. Is that allowed to go to the minister, or do I just file both applications at the same time? Because I know I'm going to be turned down by our staff here.
Through the chair, so we have one scenario, staff not recommend approval. The board refuses at a hearing. There is appeal timelines for so I don't know if the minister's powers and that process can go on at the same time. I'm not sure, but there's nothing that says if they don't succeed one, they could put another application. Go through another way.
Since this letter is asking for some clarity on some issues, can we add that little bit of clarity into the letter that we're going to draft, or is that what's my line?
Through the chair, so these comments are due May 5th, so we can make some adjustments, they just wouldn't be able to bring back for, which is May 9th. So if you want staff to make those edits, we can do that, and then, or continuing, or.
I think the timeline, maybe we just leave that draft and bring in, good more discussion and all this, so, hearing that forward to that organization, but yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Peter was prepared to, and still is prepared to move, the resolution. I'll read this one. The LPRCA board of directors direct staff to send a letter on point regimes dimension to the guys just made to sign the letter, authorizes steps. Some our second meeting start motion. Michael, any questions? Those in favor? Motion carried. On the next, similar but different, so.
Yeah. So through the chair, on April 10th, province posted the new policies with the proposed provincial planning. So currently in effect is the 2020 policy statement. In 2023, the province consulted on a new provincial planning statement, which is a proposal to update the policy, so incorporate a place to grow the growth plan for the greater Portland issue. So we have a 2024 draft, and they have made those amendments for this draft based on the comments that they received last year when completing consultation. So there's quite a few updates. I won't go into detail about a whole lot of them. I've highlighted some of what I thought was the most significant in the background portion of the report. And then the discussion focuses on how it relates to LPRCA. So in this, as it relates to the Conservation Authority, the natural hazard policies in the 2020 version that's currently in force and effect, our natural hazard policies under chapter 3, they've moved it to section, right? So there's changes there, but the wording in the actual policies themselves have not been changed significantly since last year. So what we have done is we've provided a letter. We've drafted a letter to provide to the Ontario or the Environmental Registry of Ontario. A lot of the content is very similar to what we sent last year, but we just want to make sure that our comments list draft and that we are very supportive of the retention of those natural policies. Even though they've been moved around, they're intact, and the conservation authorities are actually referenced in this document. We're in the Chinese version. There's no reference of conservation authorities. So if there's any questions, I can take them, but we're looking for support to send this to the Environmental Registry of Ontario.
Any comments? Science. No questions or comments, if someone would feel comfortable moving that the signature. Jim moves it, seconded by Doug. And that motion is that the board of directors direct staff to send the letter to those attached, as one points to this material. Here all. Number. Rich policies. Final, all in favor? Opposed? Vote carried, and that will be sent out as well. Takes us to the item that was added to the agenda, and that's the recommendation that Michael spoke about, with regard to the public health, proposal or put it to, charge for rural water testing. That is, on charging. Right, we did the same recommendation or same resolution we endorsed the previous meeting. Which going with First by this board, second by Tom. Do you want me to read it, or will that be, all the word? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried, and that will be, the order as well. We do have, go to closed session, who's agree to review the minutes. We're going to move that, we move in Canada to discuss, once I get it, moving closed mention, then I'll read the thing, the board of directors enter discuss. Got the trade secret and family of the commercial bank or considerations of why the conference authority was a code could reasonably strictly prejudice significantly the competitive position of first commercial other negotiation. Just on regulation.
Can you repeat that?
I just wanted to tell you that I can read. They're for us. The followers of here, or it's moved by, seconded by Peter, Paul and Beaver. Just carried. Session, closed session. We can move. All wants to come before the board. The next meeting will be June the 5th, here at 6:30. This meeting.